Mr. Vaz, Mr. Warmington, Mr. Charles, Mr. Green, Mr. Morgan, Mr. Hutchinson, Mr. Terry Long, Miss Smith, Dr. Dunn, Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn, Mr. Main, Mr. Davis, Mr. Witter, Mr. Brown, Dr. Brownberg, Dr. Charles, Mr. Chin, Mr. Clark, Mr. Cousins, Miss Crawford, Miss Daly, Miss Davis, Mr. Golding, Mr. Graham, Dr. Guy, Miss Hamilton, Miss Hannah, Mr. Henriquez, Mr. Henry, Mr. Hilton, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Lawrence, Miss Lee, Mr. Miller, Mr. Montague, Miss Morrison, Mrs. Nita Garvey, Mr. Paulwell, Mr. Phillips, Dr. Phillips, Mr. Robertson, Mr. Robinson, Mr. Siblist, Mr. Slowly, Mrs. Vaz, Dr. Wheatley, Mr. Williams, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Wright. Give me on board? Okay.
As usual, it is a pleasure to welcome all of you joining us here in Parliament and those online via YouTube or on the PVC TV to the continuation of the State of Constituency debate and the sitting of the Houses of Parliament this evening. I welcome you all and trust we will have a good evening. And I want to congratulate all our members who were here so that there was a full quorum and we started on time at 2 o'clock. I thank you, and I want to ask you all to repeat the performance tomorrow. House Leader, statements by ministers. House Leader. Statements by ministers. I'm going down the line. Announcements.
Laid on the table of the House today are the following: annual report of the deliberations of the Joint Select Committee to consider and report on the bill shortly entitled the Customs Act 2022 and Auditor General's Department Appropriation Account for Head 46,000 Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport for the year 2018-2019 and Head 200 Houses of Parliament for the year 2012-2013.
Bills brought from the Senate, petitions, papers, reports from committees, notices of motions given orally.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following. Whereas this Honourable House desires that the Standing Orders Committee conduct a comprehensive review of the provisions relating to questions which are found at Standing Orders 14 to 19. Be it resolved that the Standing Orders Committee consider, review and report on the aforementioned standing orders. And be it resolved that this Honourable House of Representatives consider and vote on the report of the Standing Orders Committee as a matter of urgency. Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the expiration of 12 days, as required by Standing Order 87, Amendment of Standing Orders, I will move the following motion. Whereas Standing Order 32C, State of the Constituency Debates, states, 1. A State of the Constituency debate shall take place in the third quarter of each year prior to the budget call and shall last no longer than 6 weeks. 2. All members, including the Speaker, are entitled to speak in the State of the Constituency debate, but first opportunity to speak shall be given to members who are not ministers. 3. A member shall be entitled to 15 minutes for that member's speech in the State of the Constituency debate. 4. For the avoidance of doubt, any matter in the usual order of business for the sitting day of the House. And whereas there is a desire to increase the time limit permitted for speeches during the State of Constituency debates need not be precluded by the State of the Constituency debate, be it resolved that Standing Order 32C3 be amended to increase the time limit for a member to address this Honourable House in the State of Constituency debates. And be it resolved that this motion be referred to the Standing Orders Committee of the House of Representatives, which shall consider the following draft amendment with a view to effecting the change. So the provision Standing Order 32C, amendment, in paragraph 3, delete the words, a member shall be entitled to 15 minutes for that member's speech in the State of Constituency debate, and inserting the words, quote, a member shall be entitled to 25 minutes for that member's speech in the constituency debate, and may be permitted 5 additional minutes to conclude the speech with leave of this Honourable House. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions and answers to questions. Motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice. Motions relating to sittings of the House. Motions for leave to introduce bills. Presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We will, at this point, Madam Speaker, we're now at public business.
Public business.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, today, the State of Constituency debate will continue with contributions from Ms. Tamika Davis, Member of Parliament for Hanover Western, Ms. Rhoda Crawford, Member of Parliament, Manchester Central, and Mr. MP Phillips, Member of Parliament from Manchester Northwestern. And I'm asking that we receive copies of those presentations prior to the members making their presentation. So, Madam Speaker, I now ask that Standing Orders 32C3 be suspended to enable the members making their contributions during the debate on this motion to continue their speeches for 30 minutes, notwithstanding the time limit on speeches.
Stand before the House.
I just wanted to understand two things. Firstly, has the Ministry of Finance been written to in relation to their observation of the debate? And secondly, in terms of the order of speakers, Madam Speaker, these debates do not distinguish between ministers and others. It's a debate where everybody is on equal footing. So I'm not too sure. Last week, for example, Minister of State was announced as the first speaker, and so on. Today, the opposition spokesperson is the last speaker. On what basis do we do that when we are saying that everybody, there's no distinction between government and opposition?
Opposition House Leader, these are matters that usually when I send the schedule, if there is an issue in the lineup, it's brought to my attention. Unless it's brought to my attention, then, so if there are some issues there is a schedule that we can discuss outside of the chamber. All right? It's never usually a contentious matter. Thank you. Yeah.
I now call on the member from Hanover Western. Member from Hanover Western.
Madam Speaker, it is with a sense of humility and gratitude that I rise to make my second contribution to the state of the constituency debate. I say to the persons that have been going with me, the persons to whom I'm deeply indebted for their continued love and support. My praying family, believe me, this is crucial. My mother, Miss Hepsi Hopkins. My daughter, Ogeji, the executive and management teams, sitting councillor, Mr. Easton Edwards, and my caretakers, or a term I much prefer, my councillors in waiting. Yes. Mr. Damar McKenzie, Mr. Donaldson, and Mr. Allen. All right. I wish also to acknowledge my hard-working constituency staff and employees of my law office, especially Ms. Delicia Walker. To the party workers, supporters, and well-wishers, I am thankful for every kind word because each fuels my commitment. And I'm also thankful for every criticism because it facilitates self-reflection and it can only serve to increase my effectiveness as a member of parliament. To the people of Hanover Western, I wish to reaffirm my unswerving commitment and my gratitude to you. Madam Speaker, oh, what a year it has been. We asked for water, and water we did get, just not through the pipes as we had hoped, but from the heavens. Down came the rains, with the effect of the Lucy West River overflowing its banks more than 4 times within the last 2 months, flooding the main roads leading into the town. This caused severe traffic delays, the rescheduling of flights for some tourists, and residents even had to resort to using boats in a bid to arriving home safely. At fault, Madam Speaker, is the shallow depth of the river channel and debris blockages at the Riley Bridge. I recently toured with Minister Homer Davis and Minister Matthew Samuda, and we all have shared vision on the recommendations. It is time for the river channel to be desilted and flood control measures constructed to ensure that the flow remains within the river channel. That's right. I am pleased to report that as a first step, a preliminary report along with these recommendations to correct the problem was submitted this month to the Technical Services Department of the NAA for their review and further work, and ultimately to advise the Minister with responsibility for works, Minister Warmington. I will remain a tireless advocate on behalf of my constituents in ensuring that this issue is resolved in a timely fashion. Madam Speaker, roads make a crucial contribution to economic development, and it brings important social benefits. In addition, providing access to employment, social, health, and education services makes this network so crucial. For those reasons, roads are the most important of all public assets. Madam Speaker, in my maiden address to this House, I made clear my intention to fix 3 roads, and Davis Coast was also rehabilitated at a cost of $15.33 million. Approximately 750 meters of roadway from Bachelor's Hall to St. Simon along the Lances River to Horton Court Main Road was also rehabilitated at a cost of $13.69 million. Many scarcely believe that it could be done, as these 3 roads had been left in a state of disrepair for almost a generation. For 31 years, a generation. But, Madam Speaker, sometimes all that is needed is the strength of a woman. Several new road repairs and infrastructure repair projects have been recommended for the financial year 2022-23 within the constituency, which, if approved, Minister Warmington, and implemented, will significantly improve the road network across the constituency and redound to growth and prosperity. These are completion of the roadway from Middlesex to Mount Carmel, rehabilitation of the roadway between Chelsea Bridge to Richmond, and from Kew to Mount Peace in the Askinish area. Also, the Dalmally Main Road along the Davis Cove area. Madam Speaker, due to the impact of rain since the beginning of the hurricane season, several main roads across the constituency have severely deteriorated. As I speak, remedial road work is taking place across the constituency, with the highway from Kew Bridge through Lucy to Green Island currently being patched. Repairs are also taking place at Bark on the Chelsea Bridge to Cocoon Road, to name a few. Madam Speaker, as I noted before, Hanover Western is poised for further development. What with the expansion of hotel rooms, in short order, I expect larger volumes of traffic to be moving from the eastern end of the parish through to the western end. It is clear that the bypass is needed now more than ever. I was heartened to hear the Prime Minister in his presentation speaking to its commissioning, and I strongly urge that this be fast-tracked. The cries for the provision of a consistent supply of water are louder this year, and this time we will specify the source through our pipes. The water supply is best described as chronic, and the National Water Commission cites heavy rainfall, shortage of pipes, and turbidity at a Great River Treatment Plant, as well as Logwood, as some of the reasons for this. To address this, in our quarterly meetings with the management team and staff, we were able to implement a system whereby frequent water rotation was done to affected communities. We also managed to encourage the team to provide a system whereby residents would be notified whenever disruptions were expected in the supply of water. But there is good news. In fact, great news. The National Water Commission, in conjunction with Rural Water as of last Thursday, that's September 15, have laid pipes to recommission the use of the tank at Dolphin Head Mountain. This tank has been out of use for several years. It is with a sense of expectation and great pride that I can now report that the communities such as Middlesex, Greenland, Dias, Cocoon, Riverside, Kingsvale, Blenheim, and all the adjoining communities will now have access to running water. Some of these communities, Madam Speaker, cannot relate or do not know what it is to have water running through the pipes. This project was initially slated to be completed to coincide with the Emancipation Independence celebrations, but this was hampered by the unavailability of a transformer, which is currently being sourced by the Jamaica Public Service. Madam Speaker, I am proud to report to you further that Hanover Western is in the incipient stages of a revival. Why do I say this? Let us examine the word revival. To revive means to breathe new life into something. And this is exactly what is happening in the community of Chambers Fen. I wish to thank Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, Honorable Desmond McKenzie, for his insight and his continued persistence in getting this program. This initiative, the first of many, is proof positive that this Andrew Holness-led government is serious about rural economic development. Madam Speaker, another definition of the word revive is to renew in the mind or memory of someone. To quote our Prime Minister, the Honorable Andrew Holness, he says it is important that Jamaica preserve its cultural heritage and place it in areas that are accessible, that are well managed, and that will last for generations. It was not therefore a difficult decision to immortalize the most famous of Western Hanover's son and the first Prime Minister of Jamaica, Sir Alexander Bustamante. This was achieved with a statue and accompanying storyboard and was financed with the help of the TPDGO under the Spruce Up program. We were also quite deliberate about placing this monument at the Hanover Parish Library. Someone once said that libraries are full of ideas, perhaps the most dangerous and powerful of all weapons. It is our desire that every child that visits the Hanover Parish Library will be armed with the self-belief that they too can hail from humble beginnings, make a lasting impact on their communities, and even change the course of history. Madam Speaker, in 2016, the UN General Assembly passed a non-binding resolution that declared Internet access a human right. Earlier this year, this right was afforded to residents of Lucy, Dias, Brissett, and Green Island, with the commissioning of free public Wi-Fi, courtesy of the Universal Service Fund through the Ministry of Science, Energy, and Technology. Though residents of these communities have already begun to enjoy its benefits, a ceremony to launch this officially will be held this Thursday. All are invited. Technology giant Cisco has predicted that by 2023, there will be 5.3 billion global Internet users. And these initiatives, Madam Speaker, will help to ensure that the residents of Hanover Western will not be left behind in this regard.
Absolutely.
Madam Speaker, if there were any doubts whether this country is in capable hands, one needs to look no further than the tourism sector. The growth in this sector has swollen to triple digits in consecutive quarters, and projected earnings for this year are in excess of $4 billion. In fact, this summer 2022 is deemed to be the largest and best summer Jamaica's tourism has ever seen. one could be forgiven for wondering if we are still in the throes of a global pandemic. Credit, therefore, has to be given to the Minister of Tourism, the Honorable Ed Bartlett, for his astute management of his portfolio and making our tourism product the envy of the world. Further developments in this sector for Hanover Western will include close to 5,000 new rooms, including a 1,000-room hotel at the Rhodes Hall location and the opening of the Princess Hotel in the Green Island area, with expansions being done to other The future for the constituency is looking bright indeed. I'm also especially proud of the fact that Negril continues to be the crown jewel in the sector's success, having contributed almost a third of all tourism revenues. It is only fitting, therefore, that Negril should receive its very own welcome sign, which is the centerpiece. This is the centerpiece of TPDCO's Jamaica photo experience, and it is well on its way to becoming an iconic landmark site. Quite apart from the sign itself, the area also includes a lay-by, wheelchair-accessible walkway, a retaining wall, landscaping, tension barrier, and solar lighting, which will help with the visibility of the sign at night. Anyone who has ever traveled that stretch of road from Orange Bay to Salt Creek Bridge would know how dark it really is at night. This sign has already begun fulfilling one of its core purposes, that of spawning user-generated content for marketing the Negril experience, as scores of locals and tourists have flocked to take photos at this sign. That's right. When our environment is clean and pleasing to the eye, our facilities functional, Madam Speaker, it inspires civic pride and lifts the spirits of residents. It was with this in mind that we embarked on our Labor Day activities. 4 health centers received special attention. At the Green Island Health Center, new filing shelves were installed. A deep bushing exercise was conducted at the Logwood Health Center. Cave Valley Health Center received a fresh coat of paint, and the Kingswell Health Centers had doors and locks replaced. Repainting was also done at many of the roundabouts to include that of the Salt Spring intersection, as well as other areas in Green Island. The beautification of our communities continued as a part of our Jamaica 60 celebrations, and a more comprehensive cleanup was done for the town of Lucy, for which we continue to receive expressions of gratitude. During this period, the Kew and Green Island bridges, as well as the exterior wall of the Watson Taylor Park complex, were painted for the very first time, and the silting and drain cleaning exercises were also conducted in several Lucy Harbor and other areas. The result could be coral death, which would seriously degrade the quality of our seas and rivers. It is for that reason, beginning the first week of October, select communities will be engaging in a separation of plastics, recycling, and composting exercise. A pilot project has already been undertaken, and it reaped great success. I urge my colleagues to undertake a similar project in their constituency so that, community by community, parish by parish, we can create a more sustainable future. Saving the best for last, Madam Speaker, education continues to be a top priority of mine. Education enables upward socio-economic mobility. It is a key means of escaping poverty. It also possesses implications for national development. This is why we continue to assist students with their tuition. This year we assisted 6th formers as well as those entering tertiary level education. I will share one particular story, Madam Speaker, as touching as it was. I was particularly pleased to be able to provide financial assistance to a mother of 4 who was a victim of domestic violence. She was unable to complete her studies because, of course, she had moved out of the home and had no other recourse for financing. She was assisted. She is now gainfully employed, having completed her studies, and has regained power over her life. Through partnership with Heart, a total of 60 beauty care professionals received certification in their skill via the on-the-job certification program. Madam Speaker, I am a firm believer in the saying that encouragement sweetens labor, and I have made it a point of my duty to reward academic excellence to the youth in my constituency. Through a partnership with Grand Palladium Hotel and the Ministry of Education Region 4, the top PEP students from each primary and preparatory schools were hosted at a function, and they were awarded certificates, book vouchers, and trophies for outstanding performance in their exams. Madam Speaker, in closing, I leave you with the words of Albert Einstein, who once said, strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value. I have found that once I make it my duty to positively impact the lives of my constituents, as night follows day, success is the inevitable result. And it is this principle that will guide me in my mission to transform Hanover into a paragon of social and economic development. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Here am I, O Lord, said me. Here am I, O Lord, said me.
Well done.
Absolutely. Well done. Very good. Absolutely.
So, Madam Speaker, Member of Parliament Rhoda Crawford will now make her presentation, and I must comment, Madam Speaker, that MP Tamika Davis did extremely well and completed within the time allotted.
And as we congratulate the Member of Parliament from Hanover Western, I now want to invite the Member of Parliament from Manchester Central to take center stage and let us have her presentation. Member from Central Manchester. Hero.
Madam Speaker, permission to speak from a seat that is not my own.
That's all right.
Granted. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the act of thanking God for my being alive and well has adopted a deeper meaning. For you see, Madam Speaker, in May, I lost my dearest grandmama, Carmen Crawford, the thread that held my paternal family together. Later in July, I lost one of my fiercest political warriors, the Jamaica Labour Party's only councillor in Manchester Central, Councillor Cleon Francis of the Knockpatrick Division. Additionally, it was only a few weeks ago that I too had my own close encounter with the grave, when members of my family and I met in a terrible motor vehicle accident in my constituency. Thankfully, we escaped injuries. Madam Speaker, I am equally thankful that during such difficult encounters, the Almighty God granted me renewed strength, wisdom, hope, protection, and determination, thus enabling the continuation of my mission to deliver excellent representation. Madam Speaker, it would not be in good conscience were I to fail in my expressions of gratitude to recognize you and my parliamentary colleagues on both sides of the House who offered undiluted love and support during said periods of difficulties. I say thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Speaker, I am extremely delighted to rise for the second time in this honorable House to speak of the many current, planned and desired rebuilding activities in the now envied constituency, the constituency of Manchester Central, represented by me, a proud daughter of the soil. Madam Speaker, never before have the people in Manchester Central witnessed or experienced such rapid growth and development in their communities in so short a time. It is true, lives are being positively impacted in record time.
Hear, hear.
Madam Speaker, to this end, my constituents have closely monitored my performance, and after 2 years of solid representation, they have handed me my report card for presentation to this honorable House and the people of Jamaica. From the report card. It says, name of constituency, Manchester Central.
Yes.
Member of Parliament, Rhoda Moy Crawford. Years in office, 2. Number of days absent, 0. Performance excellent. Conduct well-mannered. Areas of focus. Road repairs. Through the Road Fix program, several roads have been repaired. Shawtown, Wilbin, Blue Mountain, Ingleside, Jackson Drive, Chowers, Top Coffee Grove, Bottom Coffee Grove, sections of Waltham, Tulsa Road, Barnstable, Davidton, Long Hill, Mayday, Banana Ground, Old Melrose Road, the Carteret Road, Mandeville Town Centre, Manchester Road, Old Kendall Road, Victoria Hill, Manga Grove, sections of Bombay, Royal Flat, New Hall, Richmond, Bellytyro, Mandeville to Rods Corner, Horus to Whitney Term, Perth Road, sections of Winston Jones Highway, Villa Road Primary School Ground, among others.
Take a break now. Draw a break now.
The comment? The comment? Hats off to you, Rhoda. What an awesome job you are doing on these roads that seems unreachable. Madame Rhoda, you are one in a million, strong-willed and determined. Keep up the good work. God's richest blessing, Miss Kerr. Tuition grants, 385 have been distributed to students at the early childhood, primary, secondary, and tertiary level of the education system. 375 was distributed through the Constituency Development Fund and 10 through the Ministry of Labor. The comment, all the while I asked politicians for assistance, and this is the first time I have ever gotten. I appreciate you for helping my daughter to go back to university, Mr. Elliott. Book grants, 436 presented to constituents through the Constituency Development Fund. The comment, if you are working so hard, I want to know what the MP before was doing. You are working so hard since you win. Every day is good news, Mr. Swaby. Training opportunities, 207 constituents have received training through Heart NSTA Trust. Comment, you are the real deal. Thank you for improving the lives of your constituents, Ms. Brown. Technological devices, 406 provided through the Constituency Development Fund and the Ministry of Education. Comment, hope is really here. You keep on investing in Central Manchester. I am a passionate educator, so when I see this, my heart smiles. Thank you. And this is from Mrs. Hamilton. School supplies, bags, uniforms, stationery. 1,200 students were provided with resources through the Constituency Development Fund. Comment, it is so good that you understand the needs of the community. Keep up the good work. Love, Mr. Graham. Water tanks, 239 water tanks were distributed through the Constituency Development Fund and RADA. The comment, more pan more. What a MP for work. You only need to build a politics school now to teach all potential politicians how to work if they get elected. Mr. Edwards. Farming grants, 345 grants were provided to farmers through the Constituency Development Fund and RADA. Comment, I am not going to lie. I am a comrade, but I admire this lady from the first day she won her seat. My dear, you are working hard. You put in your heart into all you're doing. You really care about your people and your constituency. Miss Ferguson. Prosperity. Building grants, 183 was provided to constituents through the Constituency Development Fund and the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Comment, you know I have been following your growth. I am sorry you're going to have to write a book and leave for the other MPs who were before you. What you have achieved for your people in such a short time is remarkable. Keep it up, Ms. Sam. Entrepreneur grants, 123 presented to constituents through the Constituency Development Fund and the Ministry of Labor. Comment, you are definitely amazing. You never stop doing good for your constituents, Mr. Forbes. Welfare and compassionate grants, funerals, medicals, and school supplies, 2,825 were granted through the Constituency Development Fund and the Ministry of Labor, as well as Windalco. Comment, I love this young lady. She's always giving back. I pray God's blessing over you, my dear, from Miss Wallace. Direct employment opportunities, 478 constituents were helped with employment opportunities in the areas of office attendants, drivers, farm workers, data entry clerks, receptionists, hospitality workers, and secretaries. The comment, may God continue to bless you and strengthen you as you serve so passionately and wholesome. Ms. Palmer. Beautification exercises, drain cleaning, debushing, painting, and garbage collection. $17 million has been spent through the Constituency Development Fund, NWA, and the NSWMA. The comment, so beautiful. When I come to Jamaica soon, I might just drive past my own yard gate at Clifton Heights. Thanks, Rhoda, Miss Blake. Sports programs, and these cater to football leagues, gears, trophies, equipment. $2 million was allocated for the inaugural MP Crawford Football League, sponsorship of the top-notch Football League, donations to Belfield High School Summer Sports Camp, and other community cricket and football leagues. This is funded through the Constituency Development Fund and the business community. Comment, MP are promoting this bill community unity, Ms. Francis. And finally, water distribution, 122 loads distributed through the Constituency Development Fund. Comment, we will have to call you the water lady, not just Rhoda Fix, Ms. Chang. Madam Speaker, in addition to these areas of focus captured, there are other critical developmental activities, or as my constituents say, extracurricular activities, that have been either undertaken or is being undertaken through several government ministries and agencies. These include, but are not limited to, the Melrose to Williamsfield leg of the East-West South Coast Highway, which is now 81% completed. When completed, travel time to Mandeville will be significantly reduced. $410 million Greater Water Mandeville Supply System. This system is currently in phase 2 of 4 phases. When completed, residents in Mandeville and neighboring communities will be relieved of decades of severe water challenges. The $80 million Mandeville Traffic Management System to tackle traffic congestion in our town is finally being implemented. When completed, we will see new turning lane conversions of some roadways to full two-way operations, new signalized intersections, added traffic lights, new draining systems, and road rehabilitation.
Transformational.
112 housing solutions, 80 service lots, and 32 bedroom units have been developed and presented to my constituents in Perth Estate. 5 3-bedroom units through the Hope housing units are currently under construction in New Hall, Lucky Street, Comfort, Old Melrose, and Bottom Coffee Grove. Mandeville's, and by extension, Manchester's first family court, outfitted with state-of-the-art technology, is now in full operation. The construction of the new school plan for Albion Primary School in Mayday, the commissioning of free Wi-Fi hotspot in the community of Bombay, and soon to be officially commissioned free Wi-Fi hotspots in the communities of Broadleaf and Elgin. The $48 million construction of a new state-of-art female ward at the Manchester Infirmary, and the refurbishing of Broadleaf Community Health Clinic, which will commence following our site inspection tomorrow morning. Madam Speaker, I must, on behalf of my grateful constituents, place on record our profound gratitude to the Prime Minister, Most Honourable Andrew Holness, and Ministers Honourable Edward Warmington, Honourable Desmond McKenzie, Honourable Darrell Vaz, Honourable Delroy Chuck in representational politics has commenced, and I continue to work diligently in the interest of my constituents. As we move forward, I am very excited about embarking on the many planned initiatives. I am especially looking forward to the many roads that will be rehabilitated under the Road Fix program, the refurbishing of the Mandeville Market, the construction of free community water shops, the construction of 20 new classrooms, 2 bathrooms, a science lab, a computer lab, and a staff room at Belfield High School in the PNP's strongest division, and the installation of new garbage skips in several communities, as well as the installation of solar streetlights in some communities. Belfield. Madam Speaker, despite these visibly glowing achievements, the journey has not been easy, and there is still much more work to be done to rebuild the constituency, a constituency that was neglected for more than 30 years. Besides, there is always room for improvements. Madam Speaker, while I accept that there will always be challenges, there are some man-made hurdles that can be removed or systems implemented to allow for greater effectiveness. Yes. Consequently, permit me to call upon the National Works Agency and the National Water Commission to enter into or enforce a memorandum of understanding to ensure that the two entities execute their duties collaboratively. Yes. We have far too often borne witness to the dismantling of freshly asphalted roads to facilitate the installation or repairs of pipelines. Madam Speaker, my heart broke a few months ago when I received pictures and a phone call from an angry and frustrated constituent who saw a work team from the NWC digging into a section of the roadway on the Carteret Road less than 2 hours after my road affix team had concluded road repairs. This practice must not continue. Too much of taxpayers' monies and time are being wasted. I must also call upon the Minister with responsibility for water, the executive management team of the NWC, and the managers of UC Rosal Windalco to jointly consider the feasibility of government's lease or purchase of at least 3 or 4 of the wells located at Windalco's Williamsfield plant in the constituency. The existing wells have the capacity to store and produce approximately 3 to 4 million gallons of water daily. This far exceeds the existing 1.3 to 1.5 million gallons currently being made available to the entire constituency on a daily basis through the NWC. With the access to some of Windalco's wells that are being minimally used by Windalco, many of the communities within the constituency that are not serviced by the NWC could for the first time gain access to potable water. This access could also increase a more consistent flow of water into the homes of existing customers, thereby tackling the issue of frequent water lockoffs. Madam Speaker, permit me to also call upon our responsive and understanding Minister of Finance. My call is for the Honourable Minister to consider making the provisions available to enable the Houses of Parliament to either increase the monthly allowance given to members of Parliament to operate our constituency offices, or for the Parliament to assume full responsibility of covering the expenses associated with the operations of our constituency offices and make said payments directly through the finance unit of the Parliament. Madam Speaker, the public consistently calls for better representation from its members of Parliament, and we are committed to providing that representation. One of the best ways to ensure our success and hold us more accountable is to equip us with the needed tools to execute our function. One such important and needed tool is a proper functioning constituency office. Madam Speaker, the existing allowance afforded to each of the 63 members of Parliament is not sufficient to enable us to pay office rent, all utilities, light, water, internet, phone bills, purchase office furniture, purchase technological devices, computers and printers, purchase stationery, purchase office cellular phones, so that our constituents can reach us beyond office hours, pay a cleaner attendant and a bearer, among other expenses. Madam Speaker, in order to ensure that this issue does not prevent us from executing our duties, new members of Parliament have been executing our duties through the kind contributions of the business community and from our salaries. Madam Speaker, the issue ought to be addressed. Madam Speaker, the issue ought to be addressed, and now is an opportune time as the government moves to improve the wages and working conditions of the public sector workers, a move I wholeheartedly support.
Here, here, all of us quarrel about it.
Madam Speaker, my admirers and detractors have marveled and questioned my ability to lead with such distinction despite obvious mitigating factors. Throughout my presentation this afternoon, much clarity was provided regarding how I have been able to achieve success. However, what was not mentioned and must be mentioned is that I am blessed with an excellent support system. A support system comprising of a committed constituency office staff, talented divisional leaders, a fierce constituency management team, faithful party workers, a caring family, loyal friends, and powerful religious leaders. This support team, Madam Speaker, knows how much I love and value them, as they are told and shown quite often. Madam Speaker, it has been my pleasure to contribute to this year's State of Constituency debate. May the good Lord continue to protect and prosper all of us. I thank you.
Madam Speaker, I'm so impressed today. All our speakers have kept within the time allotted. So, Madam Speaker, at this time, I would ask you to recognize MP Phillips.
Member of Parliament. I want to thank the member of Manchester Central and congratulate her on her report card. And while I'm doing that, I want to invite the Member of Parliament from Northwestern Manchester to make his contribution.
But I also would like to recognize my colleagues on both sides of the House for sometimes good, sometimes not so good, but generally a very good and cordial relationship. But also to my own family.
Thank you, Father.
For
thank him Thursday.
Believing in me and allowing me to serve the people of Northwest Manchester and by extension the people of Jamaica.
And to my father, Dr. Peter Phillips.
Madam Speaker, we gather here.
Just a moment, members. I really would like us to show the respect due to each member who stands to make their presentation. And everybody in here is capable of making it, so just allow them to speak, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Quiet, Julia.
Madam Speaker, we gather here perennially as representatives of the people to offer what we call a better way of life. But as the polls consistently shows, more Jamaicans are
supporting the JLP.
The member has his 30 minutes. Allow him to use his 30 minutes, please.
More and more Jamaicans are apathetic towards us as leaders.
Please, let us have
it. Begs the question, are we really the agents of change? Or do we represent a part of the problem? We're again participating in the annual constituency debate, which, when first suggested, was for members to speak of their achievements, challenges, and of course, needs. In the sectoral debate, I commented on the annual budgeting process being one of taxation without representation. The taxpayers are yet to enjoy the true benefit of their taxation. I just want to quickly recount the process that takes place before arriving at this debate. Ministers and their technocrats complete the crafting of their budgets, guided by the policy position of the government of the day. Those proposed plans and budgets are then sifted by the Standing Finance Committee, after which we have the sectoral debate. The main aim is for us to hear plans and positions and lend our views on those said plans. The opportunity for backbenchers and other members to effect change within the next budget cycle is to participate in this, the constituency debate. Hoping we then have the opportunity for ministers to hear the state of the constituencies to support and effect change where needed. But does that really happen? Madam Speaker, the process that I have set out above does not move the dial in any way, shape, or form. It does not put any one of us in any better position to represent our people. Our people expect much more from us. What we need, Madam Speaker, is a system that is equitable. What I envision is where state agencies have programs that foster sustainable development, as that is what will push the agenda of a better Jamaica forward. It will remove the idea of a culture that constituents now have a member of parliament who is now seen as a welfare officer, doctor, undertaker, NWA officer, miracle worker, and the list goes on and on. Today, we are seen as a person to give out a little drain cleaning or bushing work. We have constituents cussing us when the bush start to lock up the road and potholes have not been attended to in years. We have a system that is broken and not working for the masses, Madam Speaker. Just imagine, Madam Speaker, if we had a system that is better financed and constructed for routine maintenance on our roadways, with scheduled debushing programs and a consistent check on quality assurance for work performed. This would certainly make our people better off. Take, for example, the National Works Agency. If they utilize their parish and regional offices to do more routine assessment and make recommendations with proper financing for work and for more work would certainly get done. But the system that is now in place is one where some of us are at the mercy of government ministers. Yes. And if that minister does not find favor in you, dog, nyam your supper. And Madam Speaker, I'm not pointing on any particular minister, because it happens when we are even on that side, that there's not equity across the board because the system just does not work. I can only mention roads now, Madam Speaker, as if I were to delve into the issues of water, school infrastructure, transport, agriculture, and internet connectivity. We run the risk of being here until next year this time. Madam Speaker, we in this House must decide. Our generation of leaders in this very House must be remembered as the one that fixed the system for the benefit of all. Let me share a practical issue that has seemingly eluded our thoughts. Follow me, Madam Speaker. In 2012, when I was first elected as a Member of Parliament, the allocation for the Constituency Development Fund was 20 million. 10 years ago, Madam Speaker, a whole decade. The needs have increased, the wants have swelled. In these 10 years, inflation has increased by approximately 30 to 40%. And in 2022, we are still being allocated the same $20 million. In 2012, Madam Speaker, a ton of steel was what? Under $60,000. It is over $120,000 now for a ton of steel. Flour moved up by about 40–50% since then. The only tool we have to respond to the plight and needs of our constituents has not changed for the last 10 years, and that is a travesty. Madam Speaker, with consultation, I've been able to have a better understanding of the needs of my constituents and being keen on suitable projects. We have been able to build community centers, libraries, computer labs, advanced road construction, and a music studio. We are currently building a health center in the community of Comfort Hall using funds from the CDF. If we did not have the CDF, our ability to respond to those who we represent would be much, much more difficult. Madam Speaker, there is an issue that I have raised on many occasions in this House. Rural constituencies cannot be treated the same way as urban constituencies. Halfway tree is not Mile Gully, and Waterhouse is not Junction. Even though there's a difference in population density in the urban constituencies, rural constituencies in many instances are 4 times the size of urban constituencies. Yes, the needs are different, but agencies respond differently to urban centers than they do to rural or deep rural communities. Remember now, Madam Speaker, we all get drain cleaning, be it urban or rural, a maximum of twice per year at $1 million each. That is if we get 2. This is expected to do significant work. It may be able to be significant in urban constituencies, but certainly cannot even scratch the surface in a rural constituency. It has become the norm for us to get a single tranche of road maintenance in December of 7 million, garbage and bulk waste of approximately 2 to 3 million, debushing once per year in December of 4 million, which has not been able to do the needed work effectively. Debushing is one of the single most demands being made by constituents. The situation has gotten worse, especially with the rains we have been getting over the past few weeks. I will say it again and again until someone listens. Rural constituencies cannot be treated in the same way that urban constituencies are treated. With debushing and drain cleaning. East Central St. Andrew cannot be compared to a Northwest Manchester. It should be based on the size of the constituency and the amount of work to be done. Madam Speaker, I know the limitations of funding in central government, and I understand clearly the matters of the budget and the allocations per budget cycle. But I want to tell a quick story that you are familiar with. In August of 2021, the Troy Bridge, and that bridge, Madam Speaker, falls on the border of your constituency in southern Trelawney and northwest Manchester. I remember in my sectoral presentation, Madam Speaker, I spoke of the budget that has been placed for the last many years and the projections for the next 3 years of $70 million in this budget 2022-23 for bridge maintenance and replace construction. In my conversation last week with the National Works Agency, and you had a conversation prior to that, Madam Speaker, that the drawings after a year has been completed. And now we had our exchange here in the House, Madam Speaker. But them say pressure bust pipe. And I'm telling you, Madam Speaker, that for my constituents who have to cross the bridge, for those students, those who work in Christiana and adjoining communities that cannot cross the bridge, and it's so unfortunate, Madam Speaker, because for some reason I was told that there are technical difficulties with the projector, because I brought a few photos and videos so that the members would have been able to see what we are dealing with the collapse of the Troy Bridge. But, Madam Speaker, how it is that we plan and we budget is very important, because the Troy Bridge is only one of nearly 30 bridges, one of 30 bridges that is in that state right across the island. If what we're seeing with our constituents, I can just imagine what the other MPs are dealing with their constituents. But, Madam Speaker, for us to take 1 year to do a design for a bridge with no costing, for me that's no comfort, but it is no comfort for those who are suffering. I went into the community last week, Madam Speaker, and actually I was on your side of the bridge also in Troy. But I went into the community of Cowick Park and Glasgow and Octonbedy, and I was stopped by a parent who has a child, a young daughter, who is in grade 9, who has to take a taxi from her house down in Octombedy up to the bridge, which is about 3 to 4 miles, cross that river. A few days before, it doesn't have to rain in Troy for the river to be in spate. That child did not reach home until 10 o'clock that night because the mother had to find someone on the Trelawney side to carry her around. And that parent said to me that she had not paid the school fees as yet because she was of mind of removing her daughter from that school so that she don't have to worry if she will be held on the road coming home at night, that even though she knows the driver, but she has a daughter that is coming with a stranger to her. Okay. And she worried. Okay. Well, when I visited the school last week, Thursday, Troy High, that parent actually acted on her promise to her daughter. It wasn't really a threat. And she moved her to a school further away from home. But she felt safe that she could get proper transportation and she wouldn't have to risk crossing that river. You have a teacher that has already transferred from the school. And Madam Speaker, the question that I asked the minister then was really to see how best we can facilitate those students that once the river is in spate, how is it that they're going to trek that 17 miles around to get home? Because if they cross the river, it is less than a mile or 2 from home. But they would have to get 17 miles transport to get home. That was just a simple question. Madam Speaker, when I look at the bridge last week, the 170 million preliminary costs that National Works Agency have spoken about is going to be more. Because the river training that now has to be done, because of how the river has now taken away the banking of the river bank, of the land area, it is even more a risk and a threat to the adjoining communities. Madam Speaker, time come. Time come. Something has to be urgently done for that bridge, and I am sure that you will be happy when that bridge, because it is affecting tourism, it's affecting commerce, it's affecting, because if somebody regrettably loses their life, you and I, believe me, time would have come for us, because I'm sure that they would usher us out. And I'm sure none of us here want to see, and they are this close of someone. Before school went on holiday, a young man fell into the river. His father had to jump in after him, nearly drowned. We don't want it to ever happen. So we need some response to that bridge. Madam Speaker, in the end, will we be bombarded by the politics of convenience and cynicism? Or will we be the architects of a politics of change and governance that works for the people? It is that wind of change that should give us the impetus at this place and stage in our history for our nation to become a republic. Time come. It is that same wind that motivated me in December 2020 to bring that motion to Parliament. The Prime Minister, it was the same mission of the generation of our forefathers to achieve self-governance. It should be our mission to complete it. All 63 of us are here because we believe that a better Jamaica is possible. And we will all have a role to play in that. But representation also means pausing the politicking. It also means giving hope, and it also means demonstrating change. Our collective futures depend on our willingness to uphold our duties as representatives of the people. And this time around, it is squarely at the feet of the government. What is a fact is that people don't expect the government to solve all their problems, but deep in their bones, what they would like to see are changes that are in their best interests. We can make sure that every child in Jamaica has a decent shot at life, and that the doors of opportunity remain open to all. They know we can do better, and they want that choice. Yes. We want the Jamaica we all dream of, yes. The jewel of the Caribbean, yes. And the envy of the world. Yes. Yes. It is the Jamaica that all of us are fighting for. It is a Jamaica that all of us believe in. And it is a Jamaica that we must achieve. Let us collectively stop saying it and do it. Thank you, Madam Speaker. May God continue to bless you.
Madam Speaker, 3 excellent presentations. And more than anything else, all 3 presenters made their presentations in an impactful way within the allotted time. I'm most impressed. And they're all young people. We are in good hands for the future. And Madam Speaker, I must tell you, it was a beautiful picture looking at the ladies on this side when the presentations were being made. They surrounded each other over there, and I said, my. Jamaica is moving in the right direction. So, Madam Speaker, I didn't have to use my prompt asking for additional time. But I will ask, Madam Speaker, that the following items be recommitted. Announcement, which to take the annual report of the PAC, reports from committee by Minister Clark, notices of motions given orally, Dr. Clark again, and presentation of bills. Minister Charles. But just before, Madam Speaker, you recommit those items, I ask for the debate to be suspended.
Members, there are 2 questions before the House. One, that the constituency debate be suspended until next week. Those in favor? Those until tomorrow, Wednesday the 21st. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. And the other question before the House is that there is a recommittal of the item, announcements, report from committees, notices of motions given orally. Those in and presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Announcements.
Also laid on the table of the House today is a copy of the annual report of the Public Accounts Committee of the House of Representatives on its examination of ministries, departments, agencies during the period February 2021 to February 2022.
Reports from committees.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of the House of Representatives a copy
Act 2022.
A bill shortly entitled the Irrigation, Validation and Indemnity Act 2022 read the first time.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice of second reading of the bill. And Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take second reading of the bill and to take it through all its concluding stages.
Leader.
Madam Speaker, it is not contemplated for us to do any further business today. I therefore ask that the members about to leave can just await the adjournment. So, Madam Speaker, I therefore ask that the House adjourns until Wednesday, September the 21st at 2 p.m. When the constituency debate will resume, and the speakers scheduled for tomorrow is Dr. the Honorable Norman Alexander Dunn, MP, St. Mary Southeast, Mrs. Anne-Marie Vaz, MP, Portland Eastern, and Mr. Robert Chin, Manchester Southern. Madam Speaker, I would like to remind them that we would ask for advance copies of their presentations, as was done today, and I really have to commend the members today who spoke. I'm really impressed. I'm asking the members of the House to really give them another special applause. So, Madam Speaker, thank you so much.
Members, the question before the House is that we do adjourn until tomorrow, Wednesday the 21st at 2 p.m. And members, you have all seen the benefit of starting Parliament at 2 p.m. It's not 4 o'clock, so I urge us all as members to be in here at 2 p.m. so that we have a quorum and we can go straight into the business of the day. The question before the House is that we now adjourn until tomorrow, Wednesday the 21st at 2 p.m. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. This House is now adjourned.